Hi, I had my egg retrieval today and I just wanted to talk a little bit about how that went. So, Wednesday, I had one of my ultrasounds. So, when you're on the stims for IVF, starting at day 6 or day 5, they start doing ultrasounds every 48 hours roughly. They do ultrasounds and blood tests. So, my last ultrasound was Wednesday, and they had figured that I would trigger that day, but they weren't sure. So when I went in, they measured my follicles, and I had 16. Excuse me. And she was, at first, the doctor was unsure whether they would trigger that night or wait an extra day, because half of my follicles were ready to go, and the other half of them were a little bit behind. So she said if we waited, we would get a better yield, potentially. But then when she found out that we wanted to do a fresh embryo transfer, she decided right away that they would trigger that night, because apparently if you go too long on stims and you wait too long to trigger, then it can affect your endometrial lining, and then it's not good for implantation for a fresh transfer. So I felt good about that anyway, because I didn't really want to do stims for longer, because the risk of OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, is higher the longer you go. And I really want to avoid that. So we just did the trigger that night, but also continued to do stims that day in hopes that the smaller ones would catch up. And I also did my last acupuncture the day after, so the day before retrieval. And my acupuncturist said that that should help as well, push some of them along. It just increases blood flow to the area. So today we arrived at the clinic at 11 a.m. and my husband went and did his side of things, which apparently went well, but we don't know. We won't have like a number really on how his sperm was. The hope is just that it was good enough to fertilize through ICSI. And then they took me into the back and started doing the operation prep. So the little prep stations, they have like a nice little room and a comfy chair and a heat pad. And they did some tests, just like blood pressure stuff, and inserted an IV and had me take some initial medication. So I took some extra strength Tylenol, Ativan for nerves, even though I wasn't really nervous, and Gravol, because apparently the fentanyl can make you really dizzy and some people get sick. So I was like, whatever, I'll take it just in case. I obviously don't want to feel nauseous. So they did that, and then we had to wait about half an hour until we went in. Then they took us into the operating room, and we got right to it, sat down on the table, and everyone was really nice in the operating room. Everyone introduced themselves and shook our hands, because it was a different doctor than my normal doctor, but I had heard about this person. This doctor is one of the original kind of like founding doctors of the clinic, so that made me feel really good. And he was really personable and nice and kind of chatty, which always makes you feel better in that kind of a situation. So once we got there and got settled, they hooked up my IV to a fentanyl drip, and they waited a little bit for that to get in my system. They then numb your vaginal wall, because that's where they go through to get to the fallopian tube, so they can bypass the uterus. Obviously, they don't want to make holes in your uterus. So they put a little bit of numbing, which pinched a little bit. It really wasn't bad. And then waited a little bit for that to really settle in, and then they got to it. And the actual egg retrieval was really seamless. He said my ovaries were in a great spot. Everything was easy to get to. It was quick. And the really nice thing was that we could see it happening on the screen. So Lane, my husband, was taking video, and you could watch the needle enter each follicle, drain it out until it disappeared. And then you could see at the other end where the fluid came out of the tube into a vial. And you could see the fluid come out really fast and then go to dripping and then stop. So that made me feel really good, because I knew that he was completely draining all the follicles, and if there was an egg in there, it was coming out. It was really interesting. And the actual egg retrieval, there were a couple little spots that kind of poked, had like a little hurt, kind of like a little cramp, but nothing didn't make me like gasp or anything, just a little bit like, oh, there it is, you know. And it was very fast. When it was over, they wheeled me out back into the like the recovery prep area and had a nice heating pad, and you sit there for about half an hour and relax. And the drugs didn't really make me sleepy right away. I was kind of just like a little bit zoned out, kind of like a like very relaxed feeling. Um, like right after you've come out of like, you know, uh, a yoga class or like an acupuncture or massage or something, like very relaxed, a little bit floaty, you know. But I can remember everything. I was aware of everything, and wasn't like saying stupid things or anything. So that was really nice. After the half hour, they get you to go to the bathroom because sometimes the fentanyl can make your bladder like a little too relaxed and you can't pee. So they want to make sure you can do that before they let you go, and everything was fine. They came and took out my IV, and I got dressed, and then they told us how many eggs they got. So out of the 16 follicles, they got 13 eggs, which I was really happy about. I had told myself that as long as they got 8, I would be happy, so 13 was really good. Some of them are probably not going to be mature, but I think 13 is a really good starting number, and I felt really good about that. Then we left and got some McDonald's because you're supposed to eat salty food, and we don't normally eat McDonald's, but it's kind of going to be a junk food weekend a bit. And that was it.